And welcome back. We turn now to new developments out of Idaho in the case of 4 slain college students.
Senior national correspondent Brian Entin has been following this story from the very beginning, and he joins us now to talk about some of the major breakthroughs in recent days. Brian, thank you so much for being here.
We want to get right to it, Brian. Let's talk about some of the...
I appreciate it.
Let's talk about some of those details that came to light this week after the arrest of PhD student Brian Koberger. As someone watching this so closely, what stands out to you most in this case, Brian?
Well, there were a few big developments that came out of that affidavit yesterday. Biggest of overall that surprised me, we've been told all along that both of the surviving roommates in the house were asleep when all of this went down, and that is apparently not the case. One of the surviving roommates was awake, heard noises around 4 a.m. when the murders were happening, heard a man's voice, heard the dog barking, and then actually saw the killer walk by her bedroom. She said that he was in a mask, and that he walked right by her, and that he went out the back sliding glass door, and that she was frozen in fear. What's so interesting is that all of that happened around 4 in the morning, but the 911 call didn't come through until 11:58 a.m. Still one of the big questions that people are asking, why did it take so long to call 911? But it was super interesting. The affidavit really laid out what led to Brian Koberger's arrest. They connected him through the car, they connected him through cell phone pings, and then ultimately it was DNA that was the nail in the coffin.
And I'm glad you brought up the roommate situation, Brian, because I know a lot of people are confused about that. Is there any indication as to why police originally were saying that the roommates knew nothing about this?
You know, there were a few things that they weren't totally clear on, and I think they were just trying to protect the integrity of the case. I mean, they told us that the roommates were sleeping, and that wasn't the case. So it appears they didn't want to tip off the accused killer of what they actually knew. Perhaps when he walked by, it was dark, and he didn't know that the roommates spotted him, and police wanted to keep that secret.
Tell us too, Brian, your take on the fact, was it the right call by police to keep all of this information of what they did know so close to their chest, even though they faced ridicule really from the country for not sharing more details if they really wanted this killer caught?
Yeah, they were under a lot of heat. I mean, there was a lot of pressure, and some of the families weren't happy with them. The media was calling them out every night. Even people in the town were thinking, gosh, they're not making any progress. But it turns out behind the scenes, they knew who this was almost a month ago, and they were slowly building the case ever since then. And now people say, look, we're glad that they stayed quiet. In the end, all that matters is that someone is behind bars. Even the Gonzalez family, you know, they were very critical of the police at one point. We interviewed Steve Gonzalez, Kaylee's dad, last night, and he said, look, I'm the first one to say it. I was wrong. He said, I think they hit a home run. And I'm just so grateful for all the work that they did.
Another thing that people have been talking about is the information just being cut off at this point, the judge ordering that police are no longer going to provide any other information to the public. Have you come across a case like this before?
You know, I haven't. I was surprised to see that. I mean, I've heard of gag orders before, but never really anything quite like this. It's very, very specific and says that the police can provide absolutely no information to the public or to the media about this case going forward. It also says no one involved in the case can talk. Prosecution, defense, and any of the people connected to them cannot talk about the case. The good news, though, is that in Idaho, cameras are allowed in the courtroom, so we'll be able to see what's happening in court, and everything that happens in court is public record. They've already released that probable cause affidavit, so we still expect to get a lot of new information, but you won't see any interviews with the defense or the prosecution.
All right, much more to come in this case. Thank you so much again, Brian Entin, for joining us here today, and thank you for giving this insight to our viewers. If you do want to go even more in depth, you can this Sunday. We want to inform our viewers this Sunday you can tune into a News Nation special report, Idaho Murder Mystery.
Brian Entin, who you just heard from, will host live from the scene of the crime, sharing everything on this disturbing case nearly 2 months after 4 college students were last seen alive. It will be this Sunday at 7 on News Nation. And News Nation, as you all are aware, is available across a variety of cable and satellite providers, streaming platforms, online, and on the News Nation Now app.